Today on Harion Strategy, my goal is to draw your attention to the market changes that are happening, the shifting that is happening in the market environment as a result of COVID-19, how COVID-19 is affecting the market environment, the environment that your business is currently operating in, and give you a sneak peek into the new market environment that you're going to wake up to. As soon as COVID-19 passes, as soon as this crisis is over, the market environment that you'll be operating in will be totally different from the one that you're currently operating in. And this new market, and it is very imperative that you are clear. The reason why I'm sharing this is because it's very important that you are clear on what's waiting for you so that you can prepare your business, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself out of business, and the reason will be COVID-19. So let me give you context. The COVID-19 pandemic presents a serious threat to people, businesses, and economies across the world. Leaders must focus on how they can best protect their people, serve their customers, and stabilize their businesses. Many South African industries are experiencing an adverse impact from the pandemic, which is consistent with other countries fighting the disease. As from 27 March 2020, South African government in its response to the crisis has placed the country under national lockdown to reduce the spread of the virus, resulting in the closure of many businesses. The businesses adversely affected by the national lockdown are those that are not regarded as providing essential services. Although we're now at level 3, meaning the economy is being opened up bit by bit. So some of the industries that are adversely affected include, amongst others, those reliant on the movement of goods due to supply chain disruptions, apparel and fashion, select mining activities due to a decrease in demand for minerals, accommodation and tourism due to travel bans, construction, transport and various services. And some of the industries or sectors that are thriving under this climate include media, food and beverages, medical technology, high-tech, mobile tech, healthcare services, and others that are now starting to be opened up. As we can see that the curtain is being lifted bit by bit. According to an experimental study on the impact of COVID-19 on business conducted by Stats SA on businesses with annual turnover of at least 2 million rands for the period of 30th March to 13 April 2020, the majority of responding businesses, which is 85.4%, reported turnover below the normal range, and 46.4% indicated temporary closure or post-trading activity, with 40.4% expecting their workforce size to stay the same in the 2 weeks after the survey, while 36.8% reported that the workforce size is expected to decrease. 28.3% indicated that the workforce has decreased working hours, and 19.6% reported laying off of staff in the short term. 30.6% indicated they can go less than a month without any turnover, while 54% can survive between 1 and 3 months. Now that's the challenge facing the medium-sized and corporate companies. Now what does this say about the small businesses, inclusive of informal traders? The trickiest yet most necessary and important action that a business leader must take at this moment, in the midst of uncertainty and chaos, is to find a way to protect the business operations and ride out the crisis to emerge on the other side, which is the post-quarantine economy, alive, and to retool the business for the inevitable next normal, which is the post-quarantine market environment. Like I said, COVID-19 has disrupted the business disrupted the market environment. So meaning, just like the way the fourth industrial revolution has disrupted businesses from operating and business models, COVID-19 has also impacted that too. So right now, I would like to let you in into some of the shiftings, some of the changes that I've been observing that came about as a result of COVID-19. During this time of lockdown, new habits and behaviors are forming and have been forming that in many cases are not likely to go away after the crisis passes. For you as a business leader, the changes that I'm about to just share with you, the key thing is to spot which ones are good for you and which ones are bad for you. For example, there's a rise in the use of Zoom, so maybe now the fact that people are now abreast with the use of Zoom for meetings and everything, so it means now that could be a good thing for you. You can now instead of meeting your potential clients in restaurants and spending money that you don't have, you can now start suggesting to have a Zoom call or a Zoom session, do something over Skype, because now that will broker trust, because now it is a norm during lockdown. So these are some of the shifts that I've noted down as far as consumer behavior. With scarcity and choices come trade-offs. The concept of trade-off is central to all economics. Consumers are now being taught what's essential and what's not. You remember the government at some point had released some of the sectors that were deemed as essential. Yes, your customers have been listening. So now your customers have been taught what's essential and what's not. The dawn of uncertainty is driving them, your consumers, your customers, towards basic needs and away from wants, towards what's essential and away from what's not deemed essential. And this may change the perspective towards your product or service. So them being in that state of thinking of what's essential and what's not, it might happen that the product or service that you've been offering in their books right now, it's no longer essential. Another thing I've observed as far as consumer behavior is concerned, the economic downturn is challenging the price-value relationship, shifting demand towards lower prices and private labels. For example, right now, because these are tough economic times, when you go to ShopRite, for example, if you were used to buying specific brands, if you're brand loyal, like instead of when you thought of cornflakes, you went for Kellogg's, you might start seeing yourself or some people gravitating towards buy your right brand, which is the private label of ShopRite, because of the price value relationship. So it's no longer necessarily, so now it's no longer about being loyal to a specific brand, it's about can I afford it? Consumers right now are currently finding convenient and less expensive ways of getting the things done. Some are testing their cooking, have been testing their cooking and baking skills. We saw it on social media, people sharing what they've cooked, what they've baked and all that. And some are grasping homeschooling, and some are even trying to make their own beverages. So you can see that at some point we're gonna have people that say, instead of ordering in, I'll just cook. And we also see the e-basket becoming a norm. Here I'm talking about the online orders. And of course, the use of Zoom, Facebook Live, Instagram TV, and YouTube for meetings and events is gaining momentum. Think of lockdown house party too. So it's changing how events and entertainment at large is being perceived. Now that we have tackled some of the changes that are happening, how do those changes influence the so-called the next normal, the post-COVID-19 market environment? The question I have for you as a business leader is, do you know or are you paying attention to the big changes and what they mean post-COVID-19? I have a big question of, this is a big question of what will change now that COVID-19 is here? When it's now gone, what would have changed? So these I've categorized what some of the possibilities, some of the things that we can really predict, we can think of, we can expect to happen as soon as the dust settles. And as far as in terms of consumer behavior, we can expect a reset perception regarding price-value relationship, with possible loss of income due to high unemployment rate, specifically in South Africa. A demand towards lower prices and private labels should be expected, and those with income may need to recover for some time before they can go back to their usual spending habits, or never. Meaning you can expect to lose some customers because they can no longer afford you, or they no longer regard you as a necessity or an essential service or an essential product. We can also expect shift in loyalty due to accessibility and availability and leveraging on familiarity. We will see consumers opting for a familiar and reliable brands and finding brand trial to be a high risk. Mind you, post-Covid-19, people won't be having lots of money. There will be people with limited budgets. So instead of trying out somebody who's still new on the block, they would rather go for somebody that they know have been in business for a very long time because they trust their work. So, meaning that's competition on its own. So you need to prepare yourself. The e-commerce, we can expect the e-commerce to be a basic expectation. Consumers will no longer go to your website just to browse and look for your contact numbers or office location. They will expect to make a transaction. Remember, right now, the online ordering, online shopping and everything is becoming a norm. So even after lockdown, they're going to expect that. Now we have consumers that attend DIY purse, do-it-yourself purse. Lockdown has produced individuals that can cook, bake, brew suddenly, and made others discover that their sister or child can braid hair so good. So the decision of to order in or to order out or not to order in may be shortened by, Mama, please cook that dish. Be it your kid saying, you know what, we don't need to order in. Remember that dish that you have cooked before, can you please do it for us? And that will be money lost to that restaurant chain. So the demand for fast food may lower, or any other service they use to outsource that they can now do or have found energy for, because sometimes it's not like they can't do it, they just don't have energy to do it. But because it's locked down and they're getting into the habit of doing those things, they are finding that energy. And another thing that we can expect is a high consumer bargaining power. We're gonna have customers that will negotiate with you a lot, and because you're a business and you're kind of desperate because you've just came out of an economic downtown, you might trip. As far as in supply chain is concerned, these are the changes, or rather the next normal that we can expect. For operations team, efficiency has long been a byword. This time around, businesses will not make any exceptions. After riding through the COVID-19 crisis, businesses will select their suppliers carefully and with great caution when it comes to the costs. Their goal will be to recover the money they lost during lockdown. So meaning, cost will matter. How much you price your services will matter after lockdown, because they remember this business do not have money, so they are working with tight budgets. Another thing we can expect is a strong lean towards the youth of fourth industrial revolution technologies. The world is now operating in a post-digital era, with digital technologies being a basic expectation of consumers and businesses alike. Organizations are increasingly using platforms that support analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning alongside greater automation to drive digital experiences that help their operations to gain insights and become more intelligent. Whether you are in business to business or business to customer market, integrating digital technologies in your supply chain will be the difference between being the preferred supplier and a black sheep. I have included some of the changes that we can see as far as government regulation is concerned and how those changes in the government regulation will impact your business. So as far as health and safety is concerned, COVID-19 pandemic has pulled the curtain to reveal that occupational health and safety policy requirements are not just policies that are meant to collect dust or feed the industry regulators with for the sake of it. It won't be a surprise if workplace sanitation regulation is increased with mandatory deep cleaning and strict workplace inspection. And when it comes to employee benefits, mandatory employee health insurance with flexible sick leaves, social distance whenever you're sick, even when there's no pandemic. So we can expect to see new regulations when it comes to employee benefits, where each and every company must have a health insurance for their employees and also have flexible sick leaves, not those fixed sick leaves that comes once a year or once whatever, but whenever a person is sick, they have to social distance, even when there's no pandemic. And again, what we can look at, what I looked at was the trade policy. Government, we can see government focusing on economic security as a driver of policy. The SME development initiatives like your funding support, starting to focus on and priorities what is called the so-called the essential sectors, and also the domestic production prioritized, because now we saw that when we have a national lockdown and traveling is banned, there is a need now for domestic production. When it comes to organizational configuration, it's a question of, in the new normal, the next normal, where will work happen? Remote working will be enabled. We saw it happening. It is happening. There's a possibility that some companies will now change how they do work. They will now say you can work from home. Question of how people will organize. We can expect more agile structures that leverage on the gig economy for project-based execution. So no more hiring personnel for every business portfolio. So instead of having an employee, an HR director, finance director, marketing, whoever, they will now switching from full-time employees to only gig economy, the gig workers, people that come in only for project-based execution. So you can see what that is going to do to employment. And then when it comes to workforce size and composition, the gig workers will be utilized. We can see them being utilized, and only management being the full-time employees, and non-management staff having to be shifted from being employees to gig workers. And when they shift from being employees to gig workers, it means there are also changes in terms of the employee benefits. I hope this was insightful and helpful to help you navigate the storm that we're faced with, which is COVID-19, and also familiarizing yourself with the next normal, which is the post-quarantine market environment, because you don't want to find yourself saying, I'm out of business because COVID-19 happened.